Hello, today is Wednesday, December 4th. My name is Adria, and I'll be reading to you from the Standard Times. We'll start with the weather, and today it's going to be breezy. There'll be rain and snow at night with a high of 42 and a low of 38. Tomorrow, on Thursday, it will be very windy, a few morning showers, high of 44 and a low of 28. On Friday, mostly sunny, windy and colder with a high of 35 and a low of 22. On Saturday, partial sunshine, high of 39 and a low of 28. And on Sunday, clearing, breezy in the afternoon, high of 45 and a low of 35. And if we turn to the front page, there are two articles. The first one has the headline, Pedestrian Bridge to be completed in spring. MBTA originally estimated project would be finished the end of 2024. This was written by Matthew Ferreira. MBTA communication staff now say completion of the new $21 million pedestrian bridge over Route 18 in New Bedford, originally estimated by the end of 2024, can be expected in spring of 2025, implying the same for the start of actual rail service to and from the South Coast. The project is 75% complete, wrote MBTA spokesperson Lisa Battiston via email, noting the project has run smoothly so far. The project has successfully completed the majority of the work over the state highway and along both Acushnet Avenue and Purchase Street, with support from both the City of New Bedford and Mass DOT. Work completed to date includes substantial progress on the bridge structure with the arch, deck, and abutments largely finished along with the Purchase Street Plaza, Battiston continued. This phase involved the installation and removal of false work, the installation of bridge cables, and the placement of electrical conduits for permanent power and bridge tower lighting. Once completed, the pedestrian bridge, part of the South Coast Rail Project, will provide an easy access point from the nearby Purchase Street neighborhood in New Bedford's West End to the rail station off Acushnet Avenue and nearby Whale Tooth's parking lot. Working on the bridge began in spring 2023, according to past Standard Times reporting. What's been completed on New Bedford's new pedestrian bridge so far? According to Battiston, work currently ongoing includes the Acushnet Avenue Plaza, which includes completion of the elevator, tower glass, and elevator, pouring concrete for the Acushnet/Whale's Tooth Plaza and stair tower, as well as installing handrails and treads to the stairs leading up to the pedestrian bridge, and finishing touches such as lighting, paving, and landscaping. And what about the old bridge? Well, when it comes to the existing nearby footbridge going across Route 18, Battiston said not to expect it to stand too much longer after completion of the new one. After the completion of the new pedestrian bridge, the contractor will then demolish and remove the old bridge, she wrote, noting likely impacts to traffic on Route 18 during demolition. Any shutdowns or diversions will be announced well in advance and shared with the city. In terms of when that will be, Battiston did not provide an exact date or month, but wrote, MBTA's current expectations are for spring 2025, in line with the start of commuter rail passenger service. MBTA officials had shared back in April that construction had been completed for new rail stations in New Bedford, Middleborough, East Taunton, Freetown, and Fall River, but certain systems testings and certifications still had to take place for such things as culverts, grade crossings, layovers, and more in order for rail service to begin. While the new bridge will stand over road traffic rather than train tracks, project officials have stressed the heightened importance of individuals paying mind to where South Coast Rail's designated pedestrian crossings are and strictly sticking to those access points whenever crossing the rails. Officials have suggested this is due in part to modern rail systems being much faster and quieter than the trains of old. People just aren't accustomed to it. South Coast Rail Mass DOT project manager Gene Fox is quoted in that article. When they see some test trains running, they're going to understand that the safety really is critically important, and they're going to understand what it means when they trespass. And the other article on the front page has the headline, A New Honor Guard Chapter Recognizes Nurses Throughout the South Coast. This was written by Emily Sherney. Darlene Tetrot of Fall River works in Our Lady of Fatima Hospital's emergency room in North Providence, Rhode Island. A nurse since 2010 and an EMT since 1995, she is a board-certified psychiatric mental health nurse and a sexual assault nurse examiner. She wanted to recognize the dedication of others in her profession with an honor guard, but the closest chapters of the National Nurse Honor Guard Coalition are in Warwick, Rhode Island, and near Boston. "This is my baby," Tetrot said of the honor guard. The entire honor guard uniform comes complete with gloves, cape, and cap. Once Tetrot took the initiative, she said, the volunteers have been amazing. Since September, she's attracted 15 members, among them relatives, nurses she attended school with, and even some who approached Tetrot carrying a banner in the Veterans Day Parade in Fall River. This past Friday, Tetrot and 5 of the Guard held a special ceremony at Brookdale-Sakonnet Bay Assisted Living Facility in Tiverton, where she honored 12 former nurses with a pledge, officially releasing them from duty. Florence Nightingale designed the customary nurse's uniform and cap in the 1850s. The traditional cape was added in World War I, according to Tetrot. She wore one during an interview with the Herald News, displaying the red satin lining that during wartime signaled nurses' presence, asking officers to hold their fire. "They're really well made," she said of the cape, and then pointed to her pins at the neckline, all of which commemorated special milestones, including one from former President Barack Obama, noting her work as a student volunteer, or affiliations Tetrot was awarded throughout her career. Tetrot said the tribute is almost military, akin to police or fire department honors. "The ceremonies are unbelievable," she said. "It's very inspiring to see." Each tribute lasts about 6 minutes, where a nurse's name is voiced 3 times, and a triangle is rung each time the name is called out, followed by the recital of the Nightingale tribute. Tetrot said she is willing to present posthumous honors at gravesites, go to families' homes, and provide them comfort or give living tributes to folks in hospice care. "I'll do whatever," she said. "I'm like, let's get it done." She aims to contact funeral homes, palliative care services, and nursing homes to further her high hopes for the Guard. With seasonal festivities approaching, she'd welcome the opportunity to go caroling. Brookdale was ecstatic. "It made us feel so good. It motivated the volunteers," she said, many of whom work full-time or get pulled away by family matters. Currently, she's looking for a consistent meeting space. "We're not a 401(c) yet," Tetrot said, though she hopes to apply for nonprofit certification soon. They do accept donations, but any donations over $5,000 would need to be directed to the National Nurse Honor Guard organization. She is excited at the prospect of attending pinning ceremonies or partnering with nursing programs to expand impact over more of a nurse's career. She's been in contact with Bristol Community College, the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, and Diamond Regional Vocational Technical School. Tetrot welcomes nursing students to help with the work of the chapter, though they cannot partake in a tribute until they have their degree in hand. Now we'll turn to the obituaries, and the first is for Joan P. Bates. Joan Patricia Bates, age 75, of Emmaus, passed away on November 28, 2024, in her residence, surrounded by her loving family. Born in Acushnet, Mass., she was a daughter of the late Joseph and Ethel F. Rourke Halloran. She was the loving wife of John Bates, with whom they shared 37 years of marriage. She graduated from Westport High School, Mass. in 1967. She earned her Bachelor's of Fine Arts degree in Graphic Art from University of Massachusetts Dartmouth in 1971. She worked as a rate coordinator for United Airlines and Preston Trucking Company. She was a member of St. Anne's Episcopal Church in Trexlertown, where she was past secretary of the vestry and team leader and member of various church ministries. She is survived by many friends and family. Memorial services will be held on Saturday, December 7th, 2024, at 10 a.m. in St. Anne's Episcopal Church, 6667 Lower Macungie Road, Trexlertown, Pennsylvania, 18087, and visitation will be held prior from 9 to 10 a.m. at Chance Funeral Home. The next obituary is for Andrew P. Knox. Andrew P. Knox, 55, of New Bedford, died Friday, November 29, 2024, unexpectedly at St. Luke's Hospital, surrounded by his family. Born in New Bedford, son of Judy Dinsmore Knox and the late Harland R. Knox, Jr., he lived in New Bedford for most of his life. Andrew had an outgoing, friendly, and caring personality and loved being around other people. He enjoyed going to restaurants, watching basketball, and going on car rides, especially over bridges and through the tunnels in Boston. He especially loved his ever-growing collection of stereos and radios, and the bigger, the better. Andrew spent his adult days attending programs at Community Connections and Livestream. He is survived by many friends and family, and he was predeceased by his brother, David Knox. His memorial service will be held Saturday, December 7th, 2024 at 3 p.m. in the Saunders-Dwyer Mattapoisett Home for Funerals on 50 County Road in Mattapoisett. His family will receive guests on Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. prior to the service. And the next obituary is for Teresa D. Amaral Martin. Teresa D. Amaral Martin, 81, beloved wife of William O. Martin, who predeceased her in 1994, passed away peacefully on Wednesday, November 27, 2024, at Linda Manor in Leeds, with her loving family at her side. Teresa was born on April 10, 1943, in New Bedford, Mass., a daughter of William and Maria C. Matthias Amaral. She was raised and educated in New Bedford before moving to Western Mass in 1984. Teresa was a former longtime employee at Kresge's department store in New Bedford before becoming known as Kmart. While at Kresge's, she started by working at the lunch counter, and eventually, with seniority, she was promoted to the floor. In Springfield, she began working with the Hampden County CCF as a home care provider for over 35 years. Teresa was an avid reader and belonged to a book club in Springfield. Later in life, she took art courses at the Creative Arts Center and became very efficient with colored pencils. For relaxation, Teresa enjoyed watching many classic television shows like The Andy Griffith Show. She leaves behind her 2 loving daughters and her husband, as well as many other friends and family. Teresa's family wishes to thank all the doctors, nurses, and staff at Linda Manor for their warm and compassionate care given to Teresa. Family and friends are invited to gather on Saturday, December 7th, for a period of visitation from 9:30 to 11 a.m. at Messier Funeral Home, 1944 Northampton Street in Holyoke, followed by a service at 11 a.m. in the funeral home. Burial for Teresa will be held at a later date in Hillcrest Park Cemetery in Springfield. And there are 2 additional death notices in the paper. The first is for Jane E. Florent Dennison, who passed away at age 58. She was from Fairhaven and died on November 27th. Arrangements will be with the Fairhaven Funeral Home. And the other death notice is for Wanda Rodriguez, age 40, from New Bedford, Mass., who passed away on November 18th. Arrangements will be made by the Macnowski Funeral Home, and the service will be on December 5th at 11 a.m. at 472 Ashley Boulevard, and the interment will be in Rural Cemetery. Inside the paper is an article with the headline, Market Basket Will Replace Seekonk Showcase Cinemas. This was written by Wheeler Cowperthwaite. Showcase Cinemas in Seekonk will close on January 5th as Market Basket, which bought the property in July, has submitted plans for a grocery store and 2 other retail buildings on the 16.4-acre site. Showcase spokeswoman Colleen McCormick Blair wrote in a statement that they are encouraging patrons to visit their Providence or Attleboro cinemas. According to plans submitted to the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act office, Market Basket will build a grocery store in a main building and have 2 commercial spaces flanking the center space. The existing building would be demolished and the pavement torn up and reused for fresh pavement. In all, the impervious surface, either pavement or building, will be reduced by 2 acres. The current site is almost entirely paved or covered in buildings. Because a lot more people will visit a grocery store than the movie theater, Market Basket is proposing to rebuild Commerce Way, including a roundabout at the end. This and other improvements will ensure the efficient flow of traffic in and out of the project site and the adjacent businesses, according to the plans. Multiple alternative layouts were contemplated for the site, including one that had 4 buildings instead of the proposed 3. However, this would have required more parking and therefore more impervious surface. That would have meant less space for above-ground storm water treatment according to the plans. No off-site alternatives were considered as the redevelopment of this site, as this premier location provides the best reuse of the property while minimizing the impacts to the environment commonly associated with the development of previously unaltered land, according to the plans. The town has identified the space as being within the area of the largest focal point of economic activity in the community and is widely recognized as indispensable resource for the town's tax base. The movie theater closing on January 5th had 10 screens, 2,000 seats, and 1,240 parking spaces. The site has its own septic system and underground water treatment devices, with a detention pond in the northern corner of the 16.4-acre area. Before it was a movie theater, it was a lumber yard. The other former Showcase Cinema's location in Seekonk on Fall River Avenue will be turned into a 240-unit housing development, according to the Sun Chronicle. Market Basket bought the property for $9.5 million in July, and at the time, a Showcase spokesperson wrote that it was a leaseback deal, where the movie theater would be leasing the space from its new owner. In all, the property is 16.4 acres at 100 Commercial Way, surrounded by big box stores and strip malls, including a Target, a Walmart, a Kohl's, a Best Buy, and a Lowe's and Home Improvement. The theater is surrounded by huge parking lots on 3 sides. In 2024, the property was valued at $6 million. That's down from 2009 when it was valued at $8.4 million. And just as a reminder, this is Adria reading to you on Wednesday, December 4th from the Standard Times. And then there are a few national articles. The first one says, Explainer, What a Presidential Pardon Means for Hunter Biden. This was written by Tom Howells. President Joe Biden pardoned his son Hunter Biden after repeatedly pledging not to. Below is a look at the circumstances leading up to the pardon and its legal consequences. Hunter Biden was pardoned for his conviction by a jury in Delaware and a guilty plea in California. Hunter Biden was also pardoned for federal crimes he committed or may have committed from January 1st, 2014 through the end of this year. A Delaware jury in June found the president's son guilty of lying about his addiction to illegal drugs on a disclosure form that is required to purchase a firearm. The trial included hours of embarrassing testimony about Hunter Biden's addiction to crack and reckless behavior. He was scheduled to be sentenced on December 12th. Biden separately pleaded guilty to criminal charges of failing to pay $1.4 million in taxes while spending lavishly on drugs, sex workers, and luxury items. He was scheduled to be sentenced on December 16th. He was facing decades in prison, although sentencing guidelines suggested he was likely to receive a much less severe punishment. For the gun charges, sentencing guidelines are 15 to 21 months, although legal experts said defendants in similar situations receive shorter sentences and are less likely to be incarcerated if they abide by the terms of their pretrial release. Hunter Biden's attorney had told the judge that he was complying with the terms of his bail, which included drug testing to show he was not using illegal drugs. Wasn't there a plea deal? Well, yes. In June last year, Hunter Biden agreed to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor charges of willfully failing to pay income taxes and an agreement that would have spared him a conviction on a gun-related charge. The agreement prompted accusations by Republicans that Hunter Biden is receiving favorable treatment as the president's son. A federal judge questioned the breadth of that agreement and declined to accept it. paving the way for Hunter Biden's trial on gun charges. If the House of Representatives or the Justice Department decides to probe the Biden family business dealings, as some Republicans have promised to do, Hunter Biden could potentially be called to testify. Before he was pardoned, he could have declined to do so, citing his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. The pardon could limit his ability to invoke that right because he no longer faces criminal jeopardy for any federal crimes committed during the period covered. Presidential pardons do not protect people from prosecution for state crimes. Are presidential pardons unusual? No. Presidents, beginning with George Washington, have granted pardons. Gerald Ford pardoned his predecessor, Richard Nixon, who had resigned in disgrace. Bill Clinton pardoned his brother-in-law, and Donald Trump pardoned Charles Kushner, a real estate developer and the father of Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. And the next national article has the headline, McMahon has given insight into agenda. Education pick favors vouchers, funding cuts. When President-elect Donald Trump tapped Linda McMahon to be the next Secretary of Education, he said she had a deep understanding of both education and business. Yet, like Trump's previous Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, McMahon has relatively limited experience working with the American school system. She hasn't worked full-time in a K-12 school or university. She spent most of her career as an executive at a wrestling entertainment company. She did a brief stint on Connecticut's State Education Board and is a longtime member of the Board of Trustees at Sacred Heart University, a private college in Connecticut. She originally planned to become a teacher, but changed her mind after meeting her husband in college, according to her remarks to a state legislative committee over a decade ago. She also has experience leading an important federal agency. She was the head of the Small Business Administration during Trump's first term. With Republicans in control of the U.S. Senate, which is in charge of confirming cabinet appointments, McMahon will likely land the top job setting policy for the nation's schools. What happens after that is an open question, particularly given Trump's repeated vows to shut down the department he appointed McMahon to oversee. If he commits to that path, he could face a contentious political fight in Congress where the power to abolish federal agencies lies. A Republican senator from South Dakota introduced a bill this month to shuffle the various offices within the Education Department to other corners of the federal bureaucracy. In a statement offering gratitude to Trump for the nomination, McMahon didn't address those ideas, which have been around for decades but became more mainstream among Republicans during Trump's 2024 presidential run. Despite her limited professional experience in educational settings, McMahon's record and past statements offer some insight into where she stands on key issues, which she could play an influential role in shaping during Trump's second term. For the last few years, McMahon has been the chair of the board at the America First Policy Institute, a Trump-aligned think tank based in Washington. On its website, the organization says its approach to education centers around reducing federal oversight of schools and slashing federal education funding. When Trump announced McMahon as his pick to lead the Education Department on November 19th, he said in a statement she would spearhead an effort to send education back to the states. K-12 schooling is already overseen at the state and local level in the U.S. According to the Education Department's website, education is primarily a state and local responsibility in the United States. It is states and communities, as well as public and private organizations of all kinds, that establish schools and colleges, develop curricula, and determine requirements for enrollment and graduation. Though many public schools receive federal funding, that money only accounts for a small but important piece of their budgets. If institutions accept that money, which is appropriated by Congress, they are obliged to follow federal laws and regulations, including those preventing discrimination. Trump has called McMahon a fierce advocate for parents' rights and said she would work hard as an education secretary to expand universal school choice, an umbrella term that refers to expanding education access beyond traditional public schools by making taxpayer-funded vouchers available to everyone. Those ideas are key policy goals of the think tank McMahon helps run. Its website says the America First Policy Institute supports using more tax dollars to fund non-public education and expand parental influence over what children learn in the classroom. The GOP officially codified its approval of universal school choice during the Republican National Convention this past summer. Critics of the school choice movement say it diverts much-needed money away from public schools and unfairly helps richer families. Supporters say making non-public school alternatives more affordable gives parents more options for their children's education. DeVos, a friend of McMahon's and an ardent proponent of school choice, expressed support for McMahon in a social media post on November 21st. "I know she's ready to go to work to expand education freedom," DeVos said. Becky Pringle, the president of the National Education Association, the nation's largest teachers' union, called McMahon an unqualified nominee and likened her to Betsy DeVos 2.0. McMahon graduated in 1969 with a bachelor's degree in French from East Carolina University. But she's indicated that she doesn't think that a bachelor's degree is for everyone, and support for college alternatives is a policy position increasingly favored by Republicans and Democrats. She has made public statements in recent weeks advocating apprenticeships and lauding Switzerland's approach to vocational training. In September, she wrote an opinion piece endorsing the bipartisan Workforce Pell Act, a congressional bill that would expand Pell Grant funding to educational training programs in fields like cosmetology, nursing, and construction as short as 8 weeks. Pell Grants are free scholarships given to lower-income students by the federal government to help them pay for college. The maximum Pell Award for the last school year was $7,395. By expanding eligibility to include high-quality, short-term workforce training programs, this legislation can help more Americans access the education they need to succeed in today's economy, McMahon wrote. And the last article for today says SCOTUS to confirm gender-affirming care. Tennessee ban on hormone therapy in transgender youth in question. This was written by Maureen Grupp. The Supreme Court on Wednesday will consider states' ability to prevent transgender adolescents from using puberty blockers and hormone therapy, a major culture war flashpoint that comes to the High Court after President-elect Donald Trump campaigned on ending what he called left-wing gender insanity. How the conservative court decides the transgender rights case out of Tennessee could affect access to specific medical treatments across much of the country, and it could impact ongoing legal challenges to other rules targeting transgender people, such as those restricting bathroom use and sports competition. Enacted in 2022, Tennessee's law bans doctors from giving puberty blockers or hormone therapy to a minor seeking treatment for gender dysphoria, the psychological distress a person may experience when their assigned sex and gender identity don't match. Puberty blockers stop the body from making testosterone and estrogen to delay the changes of puberty, giving the adolescent more decision-making time. Hormone therapy triggers the development of physical traits. Tennessee's law also prohibits surgery for transgender adolescents, but a lower court tossed out a challenge to that provision. This concludes today's reading of the Standard Times. Today is Wednesday, December 4th. This has been Adria reading to you. I hope you have a wonderful day.